I'm Jason Sipe, and this is the Indiana Libertarian Update for the week of January 2nd, 2017. We have a great interview with Jim Wallace, where he offers details from the 2016 Gary Johnson campaign, as well as some brutally honest analysis of where we are at and where we need to go. But first, let's check on libertarian news and events from around the state of Indiana. Let me get the share screen up here so you can see what's going on the computer. Most of the information that you are going to see is available on Facebook or other websites, and we're always sure to share those links with you on the Indiana Libertarian Update Facebook page. Libertarians dominated the opinion page of the Richmond Palladium last week. Both Rex Bell and Brad Klopfenstein graced the print and online versions of the paper. Our 2016 candidate for Indiana governor offered some analysis of 2016 in whole, while Brad Klopfenstein, he gave us some more information about the EPA and how those new regulations coming down from the Environmental Protection Agency could affect Indiana farmers and affect them negatively, it would seem. So again, congratulations to both Brad and Rex for having an impact over there in the eastern part of the state with the Richmond Palladium. Okay, and if any of you are Second Amendment advocates, you'll appreciate that we can look for constitutional carry in the 2017 Indiana legislative session. Republican State Representative Jim Lucas plans to introduce legislation repealing the existing regulation require a license to carry a gun on yourself or in your vehicle. 12 states currently have some form of constitutional carry laws. Down in the southern, horse owners can breathe a sigh of relief after an Orange County law finding any horse owner $250 for not removing animal waste from county roads was repealed. The law was a response to increasing numbers of Amish buggies and their organic exhaust. And again, those folks down in the southern part of the state, you horse enthusiasts, don't have to worry so much about the man cracking down on you and your four-legged transportation. On the cannabis front, the Chicago Tribune is reporting that Gary resident Jim Novacki will be traveling to Indianapolis on foot this week to support cannabis legalization. And again, that legislation is scheduled to come before our legislature in the 2017 session. Just rolling down here a little bit and see if we can actually see some images for this from this article. Novacki was scheduled to depart from downtown Gary at noon on Sunday. No word if he got off okay or not, but he is expected to follow a path close to I-65 during his 5-day journey. So if you happen to see this man making his journey to Indianapolis in support of cannabis legalization, be sure to offer him some support. If you want to show your support for cannabis legalization in Indiana, you can show up at the State House this Tuesday. The Higher Fellowship will be hosting a rally. They kick that off at 10 a.m. It's scheduled to run till 3 p.m., and they'll be supporting a number of cannabis legalization bills that are coming before our legislature this year. So again, be sure to check that out, and you can find out more at the Higher Fellowship Facebook page. Wednesday services at the First Church of Cannabis. Be sure to check that out. It happens every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Wednesday at 7 p.m. Bill Levin, and the crowd on the south side are doing their hard work to practice their religion with freedom and use their sacrament, which is cannabis. If you haven't had a chance to go visit them, be sure to do so. They're fighting a good fight down on the south side. And if you can't make it on Wednesday, they do have a comedy grinder on Fridays. That's a lot of fun. Again, check them out on Facebook. Okay, the Libertarian Party of Delaware County will be meeting next Thursday, January 12th at 6 p.m. They get together at the Twin Archer Brew Pub in Muncie. On the other side of the state, that very night, the Libertarian Party of Lake County is getting together. They meet at 7 p.m. at Region Ale in Cherville, and they hope to see you there. Both of those are great organizations and continue to bring out large numbers even as the election cycle for 2016 has passed and we're getting into the year for 2017. Libertarian Party of Marion County here in Indianapolis, we're going to be looking forward to our officer elections for 2017. That happens on January 16th, so not this coming Thursday, but the following Thursday at the Antelope Club in Indianapolis. We get together at 7 p.m. and encourage anyone interested in leadership positions to join us. I've been hearing some different reports on who's considering running for office here in Indianapolis and who isn't. So there might be some opportunities. Could be some contested races too. So start thinking about the role that you want to play if you're a Marion County resident and interested in leadership roles on the county level. It's not too early to start talking about the state convention. It's a few months away yet. But be sure to pencil in May 5th through the 7th for the 2017 Libertarian Party of Indiana State Convention. We expect a contested race for state chair. Many of the decisions made at this convention are going to determine the direction of libertarian politics in the state of Indiana for the next several years. The event is scheduled for the Tropicana Executive Conference Center on the banks of the Ohio, and we will pass along more details as they come available. Hopefully, we're going to get somebody in with us next week to tell us a little bit about what to expect as far as the convention in Evansville. Any of the links from today's episode are available on the Indiana Libertarian Update Facebook page. Now, as promised, let's hear from Jim Wallace as we kick off 2017 with a narrative of the 2016 Libertarian presidential campaign, as well as some pointed opinions of what we did right and what we need to do better to elect officials in 2017 and beyond. Very pleased to be joined today by Jim Wallace, the gentleman in the Adobe Connect virtual classroom with me today, or the virtual meeting room in the case of Indiana Libertarian Update. This is our very first interview of 2017, and what a great way to kick it off. If you've been active or been aware of what's been happening with libertarian politics in the state of Indiana over the last 2 years, you know the name Jim Wallace. If you know politics in Indiana in general, you know the name Jim Wallace. Over the last year or so, he's been very active in the Gary Johnson campaign, and we're going to be looking forward to chatting with him a little bit about that, as well as what to expect in 2017 from him, from the party, and what direction he sees best for libertarians throughout the country. So without further ado, thank you very much for joining us, Jim. What have I forgotten? What else do the people need to know about Jim before we get into the nitty-gritty today?
You know, Jason, it's just I'm glad to be here. It's good to see you again. The campaign took a significant amount of time, obviously, since our state convention in April, and so it's been 2016 impacted me, I think, in liberty in ways that we never anticipated, and I think all of them good too. So in terms of my background, I think most of our viewers are probably going to be familiar with my activity in the state and in the Libertarian Party. I've always been a libertarian in thought, but I've run and served as a Republican and as an independent in public office. But I think this election cycle really emphasized for me what it means to be a practicing libertarian, kind of independent of labels. And I think that presents a lot of challenges for the Libertarian Party going forward, which is a learning point from our campaign experience this past 6 months.
Absolutely. So exactly what role did you find yourself playing in the Johnson campaign for 2016?
It's funny, and I kind of consider myself similar to Forrest Gump in a lot of respects. I was a Libertarian candidate for the nomination for governor in Indiana, of course, and Rex Bell won that and ran a great campaign. But shortly thereafter, I went to the national convention, and I had known Gary Johnson before and been a personal supporter. Became more intensively involved with him at the national convention, and ultimately just joined as kind of an Indiana resource, initially starting as state director. The campaign ramped up very rapidly. The earned media, the fundraising, and so within about a month, I was tapped to be the Great Lakes Regional Director for the campaign, and shortly after that, the Deputy National Field Director and the National Director for Outreach. So in about, a couple of 3 months there, my responsibilities changed pretty significantly, but I always stayed pretty close to home in terms of what was going on in Indiana and, of course, the Midwest. So.
Very good, very good. So now that it's all come down, I haven't heard a lot from Gary. I haven't heard a lot of any official postmortem of the campaign. What do you have to say about how it came out in 2016? Or maybe you want to take it before that and give us a little more background on the campaign itself.
Wow. A lot of learning occurred. I think generally for libertarianism and the Libertarian Party, it was all positive. No learning, of course, occurs as an educator. You know this. strictly by positive reinforcement. The carrot and the stick are equally effective in learning, and I think we experienced a lot of that in Gary's national campaign. The ramp up, I mean, to be very candid, I wish we could have hit the ground running a lot more quickly after the national convention. We didn't, and there was a significant amount of time spent getting organized that probably could have been accomplished beforehand. But having said that, everybody pretty much banded together. The folks that were involved in 2012, there's a lot of volunteership inside of the Libertarian Party. All of that pretty much came together in short order. And so by early July, shortly after the 4th of July, I'd say, we put all of our state directors and our national staff through leadership training, formal leadership training, and campaign school to understand all of the components. We also assembled the software and hardware that we needed, Nation Builder, Pulse, North Star, Hustle, all of the apps, Slack, all of the apps that were necessary to run a national campaign, and largely got people trained on that with a lot of help from noted libertarians in the Midwest that from Indiana and elsewhere. So a lot of activity very early on. I think the amount of media attention was welcome but unanticipated, and we spent a substantial amount of time under the leadership of Joe Hunter and the national campaign just trying to get our hands on all of the media requests. And that was one of my first tasks, was to try to assemble a triage mechanism to figure out, okay, where can we be placing Gary for the maximum effect, and how do we shuttle those prioritized opportunities to the national campaign in Salt Lake City to take advantage of those. And I think they did a pretty good job of that. But on the negative side of that early experience was a lot of early experiences with media had gone unanswered because there just wasn't time. And in a grassroots campaign like ours had to be, you really can't afford to do that. So I think the first learning point is we probably could have done a better job decentralizing the media access and the media interaction with the state and local parties. And I think we'll have to think hard and long about that in 2020 for the next candidate and other statewide campaigns as well. So a lot of activity early on. I'd be interested in your perspective, before going on into, August and the later parts of the campaign. What was your perspective as an active libertarian in Indiana? Were you surprised at the level of media activity? Before we get into Aleppo and any of the other, media circus items.
Absolutely. Well, my take on it was when I think back to the summer months, I saw it as a grand opportunity, and even going back to the convention, considering the miserable characters that were being put up by both of the old parties, how could we not do well in 2017? Right. And I thought Gary and Bill were both good choices and were strong candidates. One of the big questions that I have, and this is kind of leads to my, I'll turn this back into a question, was, do we have the infrastructure, the existing infrastructure, to respond to a national level campaign? And I think we saw a test of that, but what I saw emerge was something pretty independent of the existing Libertarian Party structure and just the even larger Libertarian movement. I saw the campaign take on a much more professionalized, if not even a little isolated, kind of approach, but maybe it needed to. Am I making sense here?
Yes, absolutely. And the short answer to your question, did we have the infrastructure? No. Do we have the infrastructure in the party? Absolutely not. Not at all. I think that resonated throughout every state campaign. It resonated in Indiana. We just are not prepared as a party to put our message out there in a coherent, cohesive, cogent way that resonates with people, nor are we in a position to capitalize on that when it occurs. We did one of our leading folks, of course, in the campaign was the head of the economics department at Marquette University. Forgive me, I'm having my own Gary moment here, but he had done the chairman of the economics department at Marquette had done some research for us, and others had done this. I might be drawing on some of the other research as well, but we found that candidates whose messages resonated with the national message as perpetrated by and promoted by Gary and Bill added a 5 to 10% bump to their approval ratings and their kind of early voter receptivity ratings simply by dovetailing of the message. It didn't have to be libertarian pure. It didn't have to be tailored to one side of the spectrum or another, the Democratic or the Republican. It just needed to be reinforced. And in situations where that occurred, we would see people polling, 8, 10, 20% alongside Gary in the different states. Those that didn't produce. And so as a party, we need to worry less about being precise and pure. This is my own personal perspective. Mm-hmm. Being precise and pure and being more commercially appealing. I had my own reservations with some of Gary's positions. I had some with Bill Weld, but at the end of the day, if we could peel off some from the left and some from the right, then we could assemble enough of a percentage to get on the ballot in the 32 plus states that we eventually did. But that's a big chore that we have to accomplish between now and 2020, and even the midterms in 2018. We need to get a lot better at professionally honing the message, avoiding purity, and tacking towards commercial appeal. And I'm sure that's going to be a conflicting, controversial statement right there.
Absolutely. Well, it's the debates that I've seen for the years that I've been active in libertarian politics. Are we going to work on getting people in office, or are we going to work at developing policy and being being more of a philosophical party? At the end of the day, I don't see us getting people elected to office, and that's where I think we really need to be focused. Now, I have my own ideas about what it's going to take to start getting libertarians in office and breaking down this two-party paradigm even further than it was able to break itself down in 2016.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on how do we move the ball a little bit further, and how do we actually start legitimizing the party by electing libertarians?
Well, I think two things immediately come to mind. The first is kind of an introspective perspective. And Gary and Bill would be the first ones to acknowledge this. When you're out in front, as we were, and we were offered the opportunities, you have no room for error. Hillary Clinton probably lost the election because of her single comment about deplorables. It galvanized everybody who didn't like her now had a precise reason to not like her and vote for somebody else. And Donald Trump did a great job of embracing the deplorables. Mike Pence did a great job at focusing on that. You don't have room for error. And so Gary's moment on MSNBC where Mike Barnacle delivered kind of a left field, a low and outside pitch to him on Aleppo, you have to expect that. You can't trust the media to deliver softball questions to you. And so we really need to focus on expecting the unexpected and being prepared to answer those questions, not with what are you talking about, but can you help me understand where you're going with the question, that type of thing.
I guess that's my response is, how do you prepare for something as arcane as the specific? And also, I have to think that at 5 something in the morning, that would have really thrown me. And I work early in the morning.
Yes.
But how do you prepare for the unprepared, especially in those press encounters and that face time that's so crucial in this 24-hour election cycle?
Right. Well, I think probably the most straightforward answer to that is it would be best if you didn't have to. And what I mean by that is it was an honest mistake by Gary, that particular incident. He acknowledged it in a way that reinforced my support of his candidacy because he didn't shirk responsibility. He said, hey, I didn't understand the question around the bush. I asked about it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And most people drew we lost a lot of support from that, both internally and externally from that comment. And it really affected Gary, personally, I know. But how do you prepare given that the public's looking for a reason to criticize you? Different engaging strategies. I'm not an expert in this. I have some experience in hostile press encounters and whatnot, but you have to have a disengaging and a delaying tactic rather than being bluntly honest, which isn't valued by voters. You need to have a means to handle it and simply say, I'm sorry, I don't understand the focus of your question. Can you elaborate? That would have been better than what is Aleppo. And those things happen throughout the campaign. Many of them weren't reported because they happened in smaller markets, and they'll happen to Trump, they happen to Hillary. We just need to expect that and come up with delaying and disengaging strategies to kind of draw the question out.
Mm-hmm. And for that matter, even a simple, a simple strategy for the candidate when they aren't aware, when they find themselves in that situation. How can I respond to this without indicating,
right,
ignorance on the subject?
Right.
I found myself confounded, dumbfounded, confused. I'm not one to buy into mainstream media. A lot of what you see happening right here is a response to the ineptitude and to the bias of mainstream media. They aren't including libertarians in their news media. Let's create our own.
Right.
But where I'm going with this, Trump is our president-elect. The polling said it was going to be Hillary. Everybody I talked to said it was going to be Hillary, except for a few of my more radical friends in the more rural outreaches of parts of Indiana. Everybody I knew, this was a foregone conclusion that this was going to be Hillary's presidency. Looking at the aftermath, what did we learn from 2016 as far as the media, polling, and traditional data collection in elections?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That was actually my second point. The first introspective one was what we needed to do better. The second one has to do with that. We need to be more active as a party it's effectively the Trump strategy. If you think about it, he didn't treat the media as his channel of delivery. In fact, he treated the media as a whipping boy. And the odd thing about that is there's always going to be someone in the media who's going to love him criticizing Megyn Kelly. CNN and all the left-leaning organizations ate that up, and then when he took someone else to task, the other side of the aisle would eat that up. Libertarians don't play that game, and we need to. And so my pet peeve, where I started to get the most active in outreach with the press organizations, was on the biased polling leading up to the Commission on Presidential Debates decision. CNN was explicitly excluding under 35 voters from sampling. I have an advanced degree in math. I deal with statistics daily, and you can't assemble a data set of 800 or more voters and undersample 1/3 of the population unless you intend to. But did anybody call him out on that? No. It happened 3 times during the campaign with CNN. Same thing with Fox News. They undersampled independents because at the point they were polling, they knew independents were leaning towards Gary. Both organizations undersampled military and veterans where we were polling higher. And so as a party, we need to blow that up. We need to embrace the Trump strategy of saying, you're criminal. The press in this instance was criminal.
Yeah. And that's something that I found myself specifically within the Indianapolis Star here. When they first had their voters guide, they didn't even include Gary Johnson.
Right.
They didn't reach out to our candidates, and many of our candidates were in contact with them and got no response.
Right.
And I found them specifically offensive when it comes to that matter, and that's what prompted the development of the Indiana Libertarian Update, was a media outlet where we can get our message to our supporters, because it's sure not going to happen if we're relying on traditional media.
Bingo.
Absolutely. So, thinking about the future, thinking not necessarily about the next presidential campaign, but maybe as recent as the upcoming state convention for those of us here in Indiana, maybe the national convention. What's going on with the Libertarian Party? What direction do you see us going, and what direction do you think we should be going?
Yeah, and I would organize my response into two parts. One, kind of the national level, and then Indiana. Unless you want to hone on one or the other.
It's all you, man.
At the national level, I know that Nick Sarwark and Wes Benedict and the folks at that level, Arvin, they're embracing the learning that's coming out of the presidential campaign. We did significantly advance the cause of liberty in a number of states. I think 32 states got on the ballot as part of our efforts. We made available through the Nation Builder platform to all states the information that we obtained during the campaign. I know not all states downloaded that data. Other states are embracing that at different levels. But at the national level, they're taking significant steps. Our director of events, Jess Mears, who's a Libertarian Party activist in Florida, is taking over that position with the National Party. I think the plan is sometime here in the first quarter. I don't want to toot anybody's horn early or steal anybody's thunder, but and other folks that were involved in the campaign are doing substantial things at the national level to help kind of move what we learned over into the party platform. And I think that's good. At the state level, I think we developed a lot. Indiana was well regarded, highly well regarded within the campaign infrastructure. Angela Fisher, Ethan Owens, a number of people were integral to our national efforts. And Indiana was one of the leading states. I think we produced just under 5% polling for Gary. That didn't translate down ballot for different reasons. Lucy Brenton, I believe, exceeded that. I think Rex Bell was about half of that. And so we need to think long and hard about, that goes back to my early comment, do you want to be a purist or do you want to win? Lucy had some very controversial positions, but she ended up polling more in a race that was very heavily influenced by the establishment parties on both sides. Rex had two uninspiring candidates on either side of him, but didn't poll well. What's the learning point there? Be controversial. Don't be a purist. Be controversial in a way that pulls from both sides. And that's, I'm not sure what that translates into in action steps for us in 2018, other than we need to learn from that, because I would have predicted the opposite outcome. I would have predicted Rex to actually do better than Rupert and Brad did in 2012, and Lucy to do less well than she did. So that was a surprise. Do you think
the health issues with Rex played a role in that?
Yes, that was clearly unfortunate. I think my summation of that, though, and again, I offer this. I think let me back up and say, I don't see myself being a candidate again. I think I'm reasonably effective helping other candidates, but I served and ran as a Republican and didn't make the nominating process there. I served in name as a Libertarian, although not in label, and ran and wasn't selected there. So I think the message is pretty clear to me. I'm not a marketable candidate, but I'm going to remain involved in libertarian issues. And so this is what I think I offer as a nexus for conversation. Paper candidates never work. Don't run paper candidates. I don't know how many times we heard across the nation, why would I even look at your guy? You know, you have somebody who's not even campaigning, running for city council or something like that. That's one thing. The second is I'm a purist in my own issues, but I'll never convince you or convince others 100% to agree with me. So why try? And so I think at the state level, we really need to back away from this. I'm not going to change my position. I'm going to wait for people to come to me, because that ain't going to happen. And I don't get the sense that we're there yet as a party. And Indiana is probably, I remember Joe Haltman telling me this early on in the process last spring. Indiana is not a radical state. There are other states that are much more radical about their purity. But I think if you look at the results across the nation, those that adopted a more pragmatic central role, like Gary and Bill's message was, generally did better. So I think we need to learn from that, or we'll continue to see minimal success at the ballot.
Well, just a question then. This kind of plays into what and this might be leading toward my own bias and kind of where I think we should be heading. Do you think that we have a better shot of getting on the ballot, or getting elected officials in office at the local level, perhaps the municipal level or county level, the state level, or the national level? And if we were going to really concentrate our efforts in one of those areas, where do you think we should be working?
That's a great question. I think when you have a banner candidate at an up ballot level, like Gary and Bill, it pays, and I think the information that we saw from different research kind of conforms to that. It pays to hitch your trailer up to that tractor, because you get the benefit of messaging, you get the benefit of dollars spent that coincide with your issues, that type of thing. Where that doesn't exist, and I should say I think it's going to in 2020, Gary's not going to run. I don't see Bill Weld running. There's nobody in the Libertarian Party that's a compelling candidate for 2020. And I think the down ballot races are where we have to focus. Now, what does that mean? Again, the paper candidates. Nobody running as a paper candidate down ballot, when you don't have a marquee candidate, has any chance for success, nor does it advance the interests of the party, because it actually looks weak. It's like on a grocery store shelf, putting your generic products at eye level and the branded products down at the bottom. That doesn't even all the advertising dollars are going to the branded products, and it actually hurts your bottom line. Same thing in politics. No marquee, then you got to put all your efforts into the municipal candidates, the local and state candidates, and really drive the message hard there. What does that mean specifically? I think it varies in Indiana. I think it varies by county. I think in Henry County we have substantial opportunity because of Rex's many years of efforts there and Susan's experience. Marion County, I think we have some opportunity, but it's the marquee market in Indiana, so it's going to be the most expensive to impact. But all the donut counties and some of the rural counties that are less conservative are probably ripe for our picking. And so I would run candidates at the county level probably there, and the local level there. But specifically eschew paper candidates. That's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah, well, and I'll be honest with you. I've advocated, I myself have been a paper candidate on several occasions. I do respond to the surveys and try to get out to the debates and stuff, but I've never had the funds or the time resources to run a proper campaign. But my thinking was that the mere option of having the Libertarian vote on there was important. But what I've really shifted to, and without tipping our hand too much on a specific strategy, the term is targeting. You need to pick an issue, an office, or even a geography and target it.
Right.
Dump everything you got in it, because I can tell you right now, even at the lowest, township advisory board position, I cannot win it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
None of us can win this by ourselves. But if the next election cycle, I go to a targeted issue or geography, an office, and I throw my efforts in there just by doing one task and maybe writing press releases,
right,
or coordinating volunteers, just doing one thing and focusing on that. I think that's what it's going to take to get on the board in Marion County,
right.
and we desperately need to get an elected official in Marion County.
Right, I agree with that. I agree with that. Targeting is what it's all about, and it varies. Like you said, it will vary by county based on the other candidates and their weakness and or strengths in those races. But just putting a full platform out there, my perspective on that, even at the national level, we had Darryl Perry still campaigning against Gary as late as September, October. We had
Yes.
And Darryl has some great positions, but it doesn't help the premise of the Libertarian Party when you have your own splinters splintering off. And that's, if we can get behind targeting as you've outlined, I think that's a real positive thing. If we continue to have backbiting, that's the one positive thing, I hate to say it, but the one positive thing about the Democrats and the Republicans, the Democrats, even though Hillary could be convicted as a felon, they've got behind her. As bombastic as Donald Trump was, the Republicans got behind him. We could learn from that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it has to do with our natures as individualists. I think that has to do with our nature as being contentious. We like this. We like to go back and forth. And I think that at the end of the day, I'm all for a little rancor and I'm all for a little debate. But me personally, we have to get it together. And I have to look at the candidates out there and determine which candidate and which party is more likely to improve my liberty as opposed to challenge it, which is what I see from the old parties. So hear that, folks? You need to do a little better job of playing nice. And if you're going to have these little bickering matches, keep it behind closed doors. Have some dignity and some grace.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that, and that's probably belies my background as a military veteran. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to win, and so you do what you have to do. I think we need to learn a little bit more about that.
Jim, just a couple things before we wrap it up here. Now, you did say that specifically you have no interest in being a candidate again. Any ambitions within the party? You've definitely made a name for yourself as being in it for legitimate concerns of liberty. Do you see yourself in other leadership possibilities?
I welcome those opportunities. I think if you think about what we've talked about here today, I'm not as controversial as Darryl Perry might be, but I hold some pretty experienced perspectives from my time with the party. I mean, essentially coming after 2012 when I ran against Pence as a Republican, and I don't think there's a lot of in Indiana a lot of embracing of that. I think there's still a lot of tendency to be insular and pure. I would welcome the opportunity to participate. I think the nature of my work responsibilities, I still travel a lot, would make it hard to take a true leadership role. The national campaign had me on the road substantially the last 6 months, so I can't afford to do that and still pay the bills. So as much as I'd like to, yeah. But then, as I mentioned at the outset, or maybe before our session here, I'm active in California, Massachusetts, Florida, a number of other states that are really embracing the opportunity to make change by learning from our lessons in this campaign cycle. So, and that's in not an official capacity. I'm not. I actually am a member of the Libertarian Party of California because I was supposed to go to the national convention with them. But I'm not looking for any particular role. I am looking to sponsor and get behind really strong candidates. They're going to put all of their efforts into it that have the health and the vitality to serve. Because I have my own disappointments, I think, with our campaign, with Gary's campaign in 2016. And I want to take all of that learning and help port that over to other folks so that they can recruit their own teams and say, yeah, let's get a media strategy in place. Let's push back when they diminish us or what have you. But I can serve a lot of ways without being a titled leader. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, as a person who's been consistently active for several years and has a history going back to the party for many years, I can assure you that that's what we need more of.
Yeah.
You don't need a title. You need to get out from behind the computer, get on the phone, raise money, go talk to people, write letters, take action, and do something to move the cause of liberty forward. Sure. And I think that's going to be welcome.
Yeah, I don't want to extend this too long, but one good example of that is we should be raising money right now in Indiana based on our success. Near the end of the Johnson campaign, we were still raising $10,000 a day off of just internet solicitation. And so if we just took Indiana as 150 of that, I'm not going to do the math quickly in my head, but that's still a big number that we could be raising, and getting folks in front of different. It's basically a 365 campaign cycle, and we need to step up to that. I think as libertarians, we despise government so much we only engage when we have to. But to be effective, we need to be out in front of the media 365 days a year between elections.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, thanks so much for you. It's been a treat talking to you. I think you've given us some important information, and I think that you've given us a lot of things to consider. I know for myself, I've been taking a little bit of break. Until the new year comes, after this just bizarre and contentious and upsetting. Yes. But at the same time, hey, we did better than doubling our numbers. We very nearly tripled them. When it comes to the presidential race, we saw a lot of good things come out of it. Now we just need to make sure that momentum continues. Jim, any parting thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I just want to thank all of the folks at the LPIN for the hard work that we all did in Indiana to make Indiana a success. I believe we ended up right under 5% there in Indiana. Gary, at the conclusion of the campaign, rattled off a handful of states that he felt really close to and felt really changed his opinion of the potential success for liberty. And Indiana was one of them. I think we ended up having Gary there 2 or 3 times during the campaign, and so. Even though we weren't successful at the ballot, as we might have been across the spectrum, we should bear that in mind, that we did make significant inroads, and that we're one of the leading organizations in the national infrastructure, and we should just continue harvesting that and reseeding for the next year. So my off to you, Sam Goldstein, Rex, Chris Spangle, all of the crew. We just need to continue pushing, and we'll be successful in 2018 and beyond.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, thanks so much for joining us today. And if you ever have anything to bring to us again, just be in touch, and we'll look forward to having you back on the Indiana Libertarian update at any time. All right, thanks so much. Until next time, I'm Jason Simon. We'll see you. Alrighty, folks. Thanks so much to Jim Wallace for taking the time to stop by Indiana Libertarian Update for that interview. Went a little longer than we usually do, but that's okay. We're not. We don't have any commercials or anything, so it's not like I'm trying to stick to a clock. I think we've great information, and it was really interesting hearing Jim's perspective, not only at the national level, but also at the local level here in the state of Indiana. This week's Liberty link is AllenCountyLP.blogspot.com. This has been a long-running website. If you look here, you can see that they have an archive going back to 2005, over 10 years of libertarian postings for Allen County, Indiana. So we definitely appreciate the hard work that goes into this website. We encourage you to check it out. Indiana Libertarian Update returns next week with more information about the 2017 State Convention in Evansville, Indiana. We're going to be talking to Rodney Banker, because that's on the tentative schedule for next week. The upcoming State Convention in Evansville, Indiana. We'll also have all the other Libertarian news, meetings, and events that you care to share. If you have a news story, event, if you have a news story, if you have a news story, event, or meeting you want to pass along, just send us a message via Facebook or drop me an email. My email address is jsipe@sipesociety.com. That's jsipe@sipesociety.com. The Indiana Libertarian Update is a production of sipesociety.com. I am your one-man education and online consultant for content. If you want to see this type of thing for your business or organization, get in touch with me, and we'll be happy to work something out. Until next time, I'm Jason Sipe, and I'll see you on the computer.